Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Level Up Lando, the show that takes you inside the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and the occasional successes. That is the everyday challenge of my life as I pursue my never ending effort of trying to level up. I am your host, Landon Like a Plane, and I'm coming to you from my studio, aka my bedroom, right here at Truscott Studios in lovely Aspen, Colorado. Today is Monday, August 11th at 1:28 p.m., and I am coming to you in a confused and struggling state. Last time that we chatted, it was July 30th, the day before I turned 43. I am now officially 43, and I feel pretty good about all that, actually. I've been working out and taking care of myself physically for probably 3 or 4 months now. And in that effort, I feel great. I am in shape. I look good. I feel good. And at 43 years old, I got to say that is an accomplishment. I got a lot of friends that are 43 years old. And I mean, I hate to be mean or harsh to my friends, but a lot of them do not look good. And as far as I can see, they don't look like they feel good either. So for me to be in what I consider to be relatively fit shape and feeling good about my body, my mind, my emotions at the age of 43, I think is a real win. And I will take it because there's a lot of places that I struggle in life. And then there's a few places that I excel and that I get a win. And looking after my health, both mental and physical, is one of those places that I don't consider that to be a little win. Even in the realm and the roads to getting rich, if you're not healthy when you get there, if you don't feel good, if you're not able to move your body and enjoy your life, well, who cares if you're rich? So, as I continue to work on my own effort of trying to become rich, I also am so grateful in all of the other ways which I am rich. And I've got a lot of abundance and, you know, wealth. I'm wealthy in nature, I'm wealthy in spirit, I'm wealthy in health. And while I'm not wealthy with money, again, I accept and welcome my personal position. I would way rather be broke and healthy than rich and unhealthy. So that's where we're coming at. That's where we're coming to you from today. Feeling a little bit. What am I feeling? I'm feeling a little bit doubtful. I'm feeling unsure of both myself and what I'm up to with my business. I'm trying so hard to make it a successful business, and I can tell that I'm either not trying hard enough or the effort is not being positioned into the right place to move the needle. And that leaves me feeling like I'm running on a treadmill and that I'm just sort of spinning and I'm not really making any progress, even though I'm certain I am. I know that I am. I can see the little wins. I have the green book of accountability, and in that, I have crossed list things off the list. So, um, yeah, why don't we go ahead and try to identify some of the littler wins so that we can give ourselves some pats on the back? Because whenever you're feeling uncertain or doubtful, it's nice to reassure yourself that you are progressing. And like I said, a lot of times when you're running on a treadmill, it doesn't feel like progress because you're not going anywhere. But what you don't see is that you're losing weight. What you don't see is that your VO2 max is going up. What you don't see is that cardio is better and that you run for longer. And you don't see that when you're on the treadmill because you're not going anywhere. And so the idea that you're not making any progress is real, but it's not true because you are making progress, even if you're not getting anywhere. So let's just take a quick minute here and see if we can't write some things down in the book. I should have brought the yellow one in here because the yellow one's got. I'm done with it. I've only got a couple pages left, but the yellow one's got all the stuff that I needed to get done. So let's see, 8, 11, 25. So one thing I did do, which I am really proud of myself for, and which I needed to get done, and I finally did it, is create a profit and loss statement for the business. And so I've been able to do that. I went through and I created a profit and loss statement, and I put all my bills and all my expenses and all my losses and all my income into it. And I now have a relatively, you know, generalized framework for where the money's going. When I get money and it's coming in, where I'm able to reinvest it into the company, and when I have to pay for things and there are expenses, where that's going. So that's a win. Yay, Landon. Good job leveling up. We got ourselves a profit and loss statement, which was a big, big win. So let's see. What else do I need to do? I want to make $100,000 in the year by the end of the year. And so maybe I need to break down what that looks like. What that looks like. I got to identify the problems and bottlenecks. And their solutions. We need to edit. We got a bunch of different things to edit. Projects, we got Steely Dead, family, the wedding. I need to work on creating 360-degree virtual tours. Photo editing software. Let's see. I got to read Dave Ramsey's book. I was listening to him this morning. He was talking about the 6 stages of scaling and how each stage has its own problems and sort of solutions to it. And that as you rise up in the stages, that things get better, but they also get more difficult. So, yeah, I'm really just working so hard to find some sort of success, and I'm coming to you with $190 in my bank account and a massive amount of debt and no income. So it's tough. I'm in a tough spot. I'm in a tough situation. I mean, barely scraping by. So $190. And the truth is that 170 of that is already spent. I owe $83 for my car insurance and $90 to paying back unemployment insurance, which I owe $3,000 to, and it's now down to like 2,200. So, it's like I got $190 and I'm delaying paying both of those things so that I can have a little bit of money for food. So that's tough. What else do I need to do here? My apartment's pretty clean, so that's a win. We'll take that as a win. Yay, Landon. I cleaned it up yesterday. I had a sort of a date, I guess you would call it, yesterday, and I cleaned up my apartment so that I could bring the girl back to the house. And it was a weird date. It was just it seemed like there was a lot of like minor like confrontation. I asked her if she would sign up for this app so that she could get the free e-bikes that we use here, and so we could ride the e-bikes around the town. And she didn't really want to do that because she had to download the app and put her card in to sync it to. She just didn't really feel it. So rather than that, blew up a whole bunch of what I had planned for us was to go riding on the bikes around the town. And so then it's like, okay, well then let's just head to the store and I'll get some food and make us lunch, and then we can go do other activities. And so that's what we did. But by the time that we were going to go on a hike, she decided to just leave randomly. She said that she had to go pick up a friend. So I don't know. And I keep racking my brain to see if I did anything wrong, but I can't think of anything that I did wrong. That said, she got the ick somehow, and I got to assume that it was me that gave it to her. Maybe She just wasn't into it from the jump. I don't know. I don't know why. She drove an hour and a half to come hang out and go on a date, and she left like, I don't know, 2 hours after she got here. So she drove for almost as long as she hung out. So again, just one of those kind of things that happens that you try to figure out, and maybe there's an answer, but maybe there's not. But either way, my apartment is clean as a result of that. So that's kind of nice. That's a win for sure. Let's see. I went on a run today. Yay, Landon. That's good. See, I'm starting to cheer myself up a little bit. I was feeling a little doubtful and concerned before I started the podcast, and that's one of the reasons I like to podcast. Is it helps to hold me accountable. It helps to give me some organization for what I've got to get to try to accomplish over the next couple of days. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. Oh, that's another thing we can do is cold call and follow up. We got to write a speech and an article, which brings me to another topic that I'd like to talk about, which I just watched this video, and in it the guy was asked, what's the most common question you get that's still unanswered? And he said, well, it's not unanswered for me, but most people have this question, which is, what do I do? What am I supposed to do with like my life? And when you ask a little kid, what do they want to do? They'll say something like, I want to be a doctor. And if you ask them like 4 levels of why, almost always it comes back to, I want to make good money. And so it's like, you want to be a doctor. Why? Well, I want to make good money. Why? Because I want to live a good lifestyle and be comfortable. Why? Because comfort is appealing to me. And so, 4 levels of why, and you get to the idea that money is sort of the answer, unless you encounter the rare person who says that they want to help people. And ultimately, he says that asking, what do you want to do, is a bad question. And that a better question is, who do you want to serve? Because when you ask, who do you want to serve, and you find out the clarity on that, it gives you motivation, it gives you inspiration, it makes you want to wake up in the day. He says that normally you'd hit your snooze button on your alarm clock when it's time to get up to go to work. And when you are asking, who do you want to serve, you're going to be waking your alarm clock up. You're going to be up before the alarm because you're excited to fulfill the purpose of who do you want to serve. And he says that he was in a conversation with a mechanic, and he asked the mechanic, what do you do? And he said, I'm a mechanic. And he said, oh, okay, so what's that? And the guy said, well, I fix cars. And the person speaking was like, well, that's pretty boring. That seems like a pretty good way to hit the snooze button when you wake up. And so in a little bit more of the conversation, by the time they got to the end of it, the mechanic said, no, you know what? I don't fix cars. What I do is I help people to arrive safely at the destination that they've chose. And he said he didn't change professions at all. He just changed how he was looking at what he did. And so if I were to try to do that own example on myself, who do I serve? I serve the people of the Roaring Fork and Aspen Valley community. And how do I do that? By helping them to find success in their own individual businesses. I'm going to have to keep playing with this one because that doesn't sound great. It's like, who do I serve? I serve the community. And how do I serve them? By helping them market their business so that they get the exposure to draw the business to. I'm a marketing person, advertising. And how do I serve them? I serve the community, and I serve business owners and employees of those businesses. And I serve them by helping that business to reveal its purpose to the community. I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep playing with that. I don't feel like I've got that one locked in and dialed yet. So that's just something to consider. Is rather than asking what do you want to do, or who do you want to be when you grow up, You ask, what do you want to, you know, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep playing with that because I can tell right now that's an undeveloped thought experiment. But needless to say, I did listen to the video and it was powerful and impactful. And so, in that way, I'm hoping to write a speech and maybe an article around the idea of what he was talking about, which is it's not what do you want to do, it's who do you want to serve. So, I'll let that simmer for you as we kind of continue to move forward through the old podcast here. Oh, wow, we're already at 15 minutes. So, let's see, what else do I got? Turn 43. We're into August. I don't have my rent for September, and I'm hoping that I can figure out a way to generate a lead and close a client between now and the end of August. My mom's birthday is at the end of August, and they're having their 50th wedding anniversary the month after, and I'm just not in any sort of financial position to be able to afford to go, but I'm going anyway. And isn't that funny how sometimes even when you can't afford stuff, you just go and you do it anyway, and it works out somehow. I find that happens a lot with concerts, and when they're sold out, and I end up going and I find a way to get a ticket, and I don't end up paying face value, and I get into the show, and it's all because rather than dilly dally and think about how I'm going to get a ticket, I just go. I just go, and I deal with all of the challenges and hurdles that I have to overcome along the way to try to get in. And do I not get in sometimes? Very, very rarely. Yeah, I get shut out. And I'm left outside the venue trying to get in while the concert started and going. And I'm worried that I'm missing it all and I never even get into the building. And sometimes I do later. Sometimes I don't get in on time, but I get in after the show started and I still get in. So I guess what I'm saying is that there is value in making the decision to go and just not worrying about what the consequences are and what the challenges that you're going to have to overcome are, and that you'll manage those when you get to them. And to a large extent, that's what I've done with my business. I launched a company. I'm working for myself. It's been over a year, which I can't tell you how good it feels to not have to wake up and go to work for somebody else. It's to not have to trade my time for money is just such a godsend. Yet at the same time, on the flip side of that, there's all these things that I have to do to get better that I'm not doing. I should be editing every day, and I just find sitting down to edit is a real chore for me. So I'd like to, that's a thing that I can do, create positive reward for editing. Um, Specific techniques like speed ramping, specific camera shots like gimbal down. So I have been spending a little bit of time studying and researching and watching YouTube videos on how to both get better as an editor and also a photographer and videographer. And I've been practicing at the end of my runs. So that's another little thing. Yay, Landon. I've been practicing taking photos at the midway point right when I turn around for my runs to learn how to take a better photo, and get better at the actual skill of taking photos and video and learning the settings on my cameras. So that's another thing. It's a little win, I'm doing it at the end of every run, which means I get to go on a run. I do get a run in, and it's a short run. It's 2 miles, a mile out, a mile back, but it's a run. I sweat, and I do take the photos at the end, and I do a moment of gratitude at the end. When I say the end, I mean like the midpoint where I turn around. And I'm getting better, learning a little bit about my camera and motion photo with motion blur in it, you know. So we got that going. So now that we've kind of filled out a couple of to-do lists in the old green book of accountability here, what else do we got to do here? Yeah, I'm not really sure. So I guess whenever you're unsure and whenever you're not entirely certain about what it is your own thoughts are, I like to turn to the Daily Stoic, 366 Meditations on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Thanks, gentlemen, for putting the book together. It's useful to me, it's helpful to me, and I hope that reading to it is helpful to my audiences. So we shall see. Um, Before we jump over to today, let's just read my birthday because we didn't actually read on my birthday. So, and I like the book. So this isn't today, this is July 31st. Your career is not a life sentence. How disgraceful is the lawyer whose dying breath passes while at court, at an advanced age, pleading for unknown litigants and still seeking the approval of ignorant spectators. Seneca on the Brevity of Life, 20.2. Every few years, a sad spectacle is played out in the news. An old millionaire, still lord of his business empire, is taken to court. Shareholders and family members go to court to argue that he is no longer mentally competent to make decisions, that the patriarch is not fit to run his own company and legal affairs. Because this powerful person refused to ever relinquish control or develop a succession plan, he is subjected to one of life's most worst humiliations, the public exposure of his most private vulnerabilities. We must not get so wrapped up in our work that we think that we're immune from the reality of aging and life. Who wants to be the person who can never let go? Is there so little meaning in your life that your only pursuit is work until you're eventually carted off in a coffin? Take pride in your work, but it is not all. That's good. I'm looking to try to level up my level of excellence and increase the quality of the videos that I'm producing because I'm charging people a lot of money, and I feel like they need to be better than they are. And some of the videos that I'm seeing that are out there are pretty darn good, and I'm not that good. So I definitely need to be practicing on becoming better. And unfortunately for me, the learning curve and the uncomfortable nature of trying to be better at something I'm not good at is a real challenge. It's a hurdle that I've not yet figured out how to regularly overcome. So, not entirely sure what the strategy or solution is for that, but I can identify it as a problem, no question. I definitely need to be editing regularly, and man, is it hard for me to bring myself to do that. So I got to come up with some sort of strategy or trick so that I can get rid of the limiting belief that it's difficult for me to edit and embrace the idea that I can become a good editor as long as I practice. So, with that, let's check out what August 11th has to say. And before we get into this, let me just let you into some of my mental state. Um, I feel a little bit stuck. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels and running on the treadmill, and that I need to get off the treadmill and actually make some real progress with the business, both finding a client and delivering on whatever the client is looking for me to do. And in that way, I've created a spreadsheet of all the different realtors that I can find around the town, and I've reached out and called to them to see if they'd be interested in having a chat about me working for them and creating some content. And if there's 25 people on the list, three have given me a slight indication that they might be interested. So I'm trying to follow up and pursue with those three, and at the same time, turn that list of 25 people into a list of 100. And that's going okay. It's yeah, I've got the list, which that's a win. Yay, Land! Super proud. You made a list and you contacted them on the list, and you're cold calling and DMing your name out there, and making people aware that you exist and trying your hardest to close a business deal with one of them. And beyond that, I am concerned. I'm worried for myself and my future. I'm worried about how I'm going to pay my bills and cover rent in September, which is 20 days away. So, um, I'm still optimistic. I'm still in a positive state of the idea that I can offer my services and right the situation with one client, but I'm also worried and concerned that the window of time that I have to get this done is closing, and I'm going to have to liquidate some of my stock position, which I've worked so hard to build up, in an attempt to keep the business afloat and continue working. So there's a little bit of concern mixed with some optimism about my situation in general, which I'm a pretty optimistic person, and I definitely believe that the universe unfolds perfectly. So whatever happens is supposed to happen. However, I have a vision for what I want to have happen, and what I want to have happen is for me to make $100,000 a year doing something I love, which is flying the drone and making videos and creating really amazing high quality content. At the same time, delighting my clients and being invited into their worlds, and being referred to some of their clients and their friends because of the amazing job that I do. So maybe we'll put that down real quick here. Get clarity. On the business. What do I want? How does it look? What are the problems and solutions? How do I serve and contribute? Who do I serve? That's pretty good, at least for right now, off the top of the head. So, okay, we're almost at a half an hour, so we'll try to wrap this up here. Here we go, August 11th. No time for theories, just results. When the problem arose for us whether habit or theory was better for getting virtue, if by theory is meant what teaches us correct conduct, and by habit we mean being accustomed to act according to this theory, Musonius thought habit to be more effective. As Hamlet says, Musonius Rufus, Lectures 5.17.31-32, 5.19.1-2. As Hamlet says, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. There is no time to chop logic over whether our theories are correct. We're dealing with the real world here. What matters is how you're going to deal with this situation right in front of you, and whether you're going to be able to move past it and on to the next one. That's not saying that anything goes, but we can't forget that although theories are clean and simple, situations rarely are. I don't know. This one sort of, I find myself having a hard time agreeing. It says, which better for us, habit or theory for getting virtue? I guess I can see what they're saying, that habit is how you sort of acquire the virtue. But I think that your theory and the philosophical ideology in which you approach something has a lot to do with how you develop your habit. If you feel like, your health and your body isn't worth taking care of, and that we're only here for a short amount of time, and that you should eat, drink, and be merry, well, that is a theory that's going to dictate your habits. You're probably not going to go running and exercising. That said, if what we're talking about is how do you gain the virtue, I think that the only way to gain virtue is through doing, and that is the habit, that is the action. So I understand their argument and their position. I'm not sure I highly agree with it, because I do think that theory impacts habit. However, if it's a question of how to acquire the virtue, how do you acquire the virtue of being an honest person? Well, you get in the habit of telling the truth. And if your theory is to tell the truth, but in practice you lie, well, you're not going to have the virtue of being honest. So I see what they're saying. Again, I don't necessarily wholeheartedly agree, but I see what they're saying. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. I don't know. That's hard for me to believe. I think that there's more things in my philosophy than there are on heaven and earth, but I don't know. I'm not Shakespeare. And when it comes to Shakespeare, he probably knows what he's talking about. And I don't. So there you go. But out of this podcast, we got a little list of things that we need to take care of in the little green book of accountability. We read from the Daily Stoic and tried to reframe some of our perspective. I definitely need to create the habit and the discipline of editing. And I'm not entirely sure how to go about doing that. So maybe I'll ask AI to help me. But in the meantime, I hope that you're able to continue to build habits and create the discipline that's going to allow you to acquire the virtue that is the whole point of doing the work. It's through the process that you gain the insight, the knowledge, and the expertise. It's not by getting it to the end of the process that you get that. It's through the process. It's everybody wants to hike the mountain because they want the view at the top, but they don't understand that part of the reason that the view at the top is so beautiful is because of how hard it was to get up there. Now, that's not to say if you took a helicopter from the bottom of the top, you wouldn't think that the view is beautiful. It is to say, if you walked from the bottom of the top, you'd probably think the view is more beautiful, even though it's the same view. But nothing that's worthwhile comes easy. And so if you're getting to the top of the mountain and you did it by taking a helicopter, you're going to have a little less appreciation for the view than if you had to truck your ass up there. So I know that in my heart, and for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time overcoming my own doubt and limiting beliefs that are preventing me from taking the action that I need to take. And it weighs on me. I can feel it. I can feel that I'm disappointed in myself for knowing what to do and then still refusing to do it. I need to edit. I need to be editing, and I cannot figure out how to make that process a joy and fun. So maybe I will work on that. Let's see if I'll just put that down. Make editing fun, a joy. And then maybe I can finally outsource it. Once I get to a point where I'm making enough money and I don't have to actually make editing a joy, I can pay somebody else to do it. Oh, I got a business cards website. Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for now. Here I am. It's a beautiful day here in Aspen, and I am trying to find a way to jumpstart my doing, to jumpstart the action, because really I'm not doing enough, and there's a whole lot to be done. And even though I'm doing a little bit of it, I need to be doing more, and I'm not doing it. And that's a little disappointing to myself. It's a little sad when you know and you have a clear path, and for whatever reason, maybe the path isn't clear. Maybe you have a path and it's filled with branches and thorns and rocks and ways to trip you and make you stumble, and you're just at the start of it and you're looking down the pathway and you can see all of these things that are going to hurt you and make you trip and fall along the way. And rather than going down the road, you're just standing there knowing you have to go down that road, but wondering if there's a way around, wondering if there's a helicopter to the top of the mountain, because the path to the top of the mountain is hard. And there might be a way to get there. It's just going to be easier. You're going to learn a lot less, and the reward won't be nearly as worth it. So I sure do hope that I'm able to rise to this challenge and find the motivation and the discipline and create the habit that I need to create in order to be successful. Because I sure do like working for myself, and I sure do like being of service and of contribution and serving people. I like it. It feels good to me. So I hope that I can continue to find ways to do it. And In between now and then, I just have to live with my doubt and concern and try my best to rise above it and to stay positive and to think positive and to trust and know that it's all unfolding exactly how it's supposed to and that the universe is conspiring in my favor, even though things are hard. It's really hard. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something. I just don't know what. So, with that, I wish you well on your journey. I bless you on your path. I hope that you can find the faith in knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and that if you're the problem, you're also the solution. And so stop being the problem and start being the solution, because you are both. It all comes down to you. There's nobody else that's going to live your life for you. So you might as well take on the responsibility, which goes with taking on the challenges and the hardship of making your life better, improving, and knowing that you're worthy and that you deserve it. Even if right now you feel unworthy and that you don't deserve it, you are the problem, which means that you're also the solution. So go forth and be the solution, and I will try to do the same thing. And in between now and then, I'm your host, Landon Like a Plane.